All right. Hello, everyone. So, my name is Samantha Morgan, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. This is actually the first one of these live streams that we are doing at QuickFlip Media, and hopefully, we will keep doing it. But this is all kind of a test run. So, rather than thinking about tomorrow, we're going to think about today and try and see if we can do this and share our knowledge with you on this particular topic before we jump into future topics. So I do want to start off a little bit by telling you a bit about myself. So let me just switch this over real quick. All right. So what you're seeing on the screen is my time in media. Before I launched QuickFlip, I was working as the digital content director for WAFB, which is one of the largest and highest rated news stations in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I loved my time there. And what you're seeing on the screen is a picture of me with my team after we won a Murrow Award for Best Use of Social Media. So I have been doing this social game for quite a while in a lot of different ways. In fact, fun fact, my resume once boasted started the MySpace page for the newspaper. Yeah, so social media has been around for a little while now, but it still feels like new territory to some. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit today. It's definitely something that during my time at WAFB, I spent a lot of time talking about because every Thursday I would host this meeting for the sales team and the marketing team. Together they would come in and I would have something different to teach them or tell them about in regards to digital media. It could be anything from how we ran our operation at WAFB to what the current trends were online, but every week I had something new to share with them. And so that's really why I wanted to start this learning series. Is one, I enjoyed doing it, and two, I saw the benefits that came from education and learning. So this, I hope my friends are logging on and taking a look at this and learning some tips. My clients are getting a little bit out of it. And if you are randomly showing up on this live stream, welcome. There will be some very Baton Rouge centric references and things, but there's something here for everyone to learn. So I know we are all feeling a lot of pressure right now. The economy is all over the place. We don't know if it's going up or it's going down or what's going to happen next. There's a lot of references to the big R word out there, which is very scary. And so there's this natural instinct to want to pull back on spending. You know, if the budget is going to be tight, wouldn't it make sense to cut down on your spending? Yeah, I guess you could. But what I'm about to tell you is that's exactly what you don't want to do in regards to your marketing budget. A lot of people tend to slash the marketing budget right away whenever a recession rolls around, and that's probably not the right move. And there's data to back this up. I'll go ahead and share some of that with you. So let's jump into the numbers. So this is the case for showing up. You're looking at two different research studies that show basically the same thing, and that's when you invest into your marketing efforts during a time of recession, you're going to get good returns back. So first up, we're looking at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They recently reported that 58% of small business owners like you and me list inflation as their number one concern. Yeah, prices are up, everything is more expensive. And then another study shows that over a third of small businesses say they're very worried about economic uncertainty hurting the revenue in 2025. So it's clear that you are facing a lot of tough decisions right now. I get it. But again, if you show up for your marketing, it's going to show up for you. Brands that lean into their marketing during lean times have seen some great returns. In fact, take a look at this chart on the side. You're seeing the confident versus cautious advertisers from 1974 to 75 recession. And you can see the exponential growth. Now, that's not the only recession we've had, obviously. And 2008 was a big one. It's a big one that I remember, and it's probably a big one that you remember as well. Airbnb was actually founded in the middle of this whole recession, or of that recession. And instead of pulling back, they got scrappy, and they really used user generated content, which was kind of a new term at the time. But they used that user generated content to really build their brand, and that became part of their identity. So instead of, losing their identity during a lean time, they actually built their identity that way. Next up is MailChimp. They too had a little bit of a change during the 2008 recession. And I'm pretty sure all of us are using MailChimp in one way or another for newsletter campaigns. And that was part of that recession time. They saw that small business owners really needed to connect with their audience during that time. And so they really leaned into their email features, and that became their biggest hit. And that became the thing that everybody knows MailChimp for now today. Domino's Pizza, the first place I ever had a job, just FYI. They actually turned the slumping recession into a neat campaign, or launched a campaign during the middle of a recession. And it was a video campaign, and it was about their new recipe. And that bold new recipe caught a lot of attention and ended up increasing their sales. So instead of slowing down, they sped up, and it worked for them. I love this quote. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. Yeah, I actually had this conversation yesterday morning with the director over at Stroll Magazine. And that company is actually a nationwide company, but they have little micro magazines for all the neighborhoods in a town, or several neighborhoods in the town. And here in Baton Rouge, that is about 4 or 5 magazines total that they have. And they connect directly with their neighborhoods, the individuals in those neighborhoods, through their magazines. Well, she was telling me during her presentation that they actually increased their sales during COVID because they leaned into their advertising. I was like, I can't believe you're telling me this right now, because I'm literally doing a webinar presentation on this very topic tomorrow. It was just so serendipitous. And she told me that for 8 years in a row, Inc. magazine nominated them as one of the fastest growing companies. And that's largely because, or in recent years, that's because from 2020 to 2022, they went from 125 million to 145 million. So at a time during COVID, when everybody was leaning back, everyone was pulling in and not putting towards their marketing budgets, they went all in, and they kept it going, and they pushed harder, and it paid off big time for them. So that's just one example that happened during a random conversation. Imagine if you start having some conversations with other business owners, which you'll find out that they did. That's something I definitely encourage you doing right now, is talk to other small business owners. Find out what works for them. Make sure you're having these conversations and making these connections, because you might find out that your strategy needs a little tweaking. Okay, so speaking of strategy, let's talk about your social media content strategy. Are you posting graphic posts? Probably. Most people are. And a lot of the companies out there that offer social media content management services are doing graphic posts still, or at least the ones that are on the more affordable scale. And it's easy to see why. It's easy content to produce. Yes, I love Canva. I use it all the time, and you can create some stellar graphic posts in just a blink, right? But sometimes you get what you pay for, and that's not really going to give you very much returns. Now, is it because they look less interesting? No, they're probably prettier graphics than you've ever had in your entirety of social media. But It's the algorithm that's changed. So it's not you, it's the algorithm. And yes, that algorithm is mysterious, and we don't know why it does some of the things it does. But we do know for a fact that they are placing higher priority on video content because they've outright said it. In fact, Instagram publicly came out and said, we're putting a higher priority on video content. It's largely because of competition, right? TikTok, yeah, it's still around. TikTok really changed the market in terms of what is being offered for video content. Yes, we used to see a lot of video content on social media prior to TikTok, but not in the way or the level that we see it now. And a lot of that happened also, again, during COVID, during a lean time. We saw an explosion in a new type of content that was being produced. Everybody was producing videos. I mean, 80-year-old grandmas were dancing with their 14-year-old great grandchildren, and it's still happening to this day. And there's all kinds of different stuff out there now that wouldn't have been possible 10, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, definitely not. We didn't have the technology, but now we do. And so you're seeing it everywhere. So they're deprioritizing this graphic content, meaning that they're going to put a higher priority on video content. And there's a really strong reason for that. It keeps people on the platform longer. So watching a video takes longer than just looking at a graphic post, right? And we're part of, or social media is part of, the attention economy, right? So platforms like Facebook and Twitter and, oh wait, that's not what it's called anymore, X, and Instagram and YouTube, all of these platforms are dependent on people staying on the platform. So if you create content that achieves that goal, you're going to get prioritized for that, or rewarded, if you want to say. So the more content you produce that favors the platform, the better. Keep this in mind though, graphic posts aren't dead. You can still use them, and you can still use them effectively, but you need to figure out how to sprinkle those in. I would lean more towards using them for your stories and things like that than using them as your primary content in your feed. All right, so let's talk about what works in terms of strategy, video strategy. So your short form content, like I just said, TikTok is really responsible for this. The short form content is really what is king right now. We're talking quick, value-driven videos under 30 seconds. That's what platforms really want to see more than ever. So you want to think about these as strategic, repeatable videos with clear messages. So when you're thinking about your campaign, don't think about that one you can do. Think about how you can do this video 20, 30, 40 times, because that's how much you're going to have to start producing content if you want to have a real effect. The next type of content that's really does very well is personal and founder-based content. Everyone loves to see a founder. They love to see when founders come out and explain why they did things they did, or even just make a little cameo. People trust people. It's just as easy as that, especially when we're talking about times of uncertainty. So when the money gets tight, the purse strings get tight, I want to see the head of that company out there working it. Show me that I need to invest in your business. The third type is going to be, or the third thing you need to do is repurpose. Like I said, you're going to have to be producing content, a lot more content than you ever have before. So you're going to need to learn how to use that content in multiple different ways, from cross-posting to clipping for blogs, clipping for your reels. Using every piece of content to its maximum of potential is really what's going to be what saves you money, saves you time, and saves you energy. So it's kind of like if you want to think about cooking, right? The best way to maximize your groceries is to meal prep, right? Is to plan your meals out. Go ahead and book out time and come up with a game plan and get all the ingredients that work together. And if you do that, you're really going to maximize your grocery budget, right? You're gonna have less waste and you're gonna end up spending less money. Well, it's the same concept when it comes to content creation. The more you plan, the more effective you're gonna be and the less waste you're gonna have. And what is waste in this situation? Time. Time, and money. Okay, I will say there is a money suck that goes along with video content production as well. So do make sure you're considering that and making a good game plan, looking for all the different ways that you can utilize your content. All right, so let's have a little fun and let's take a look at what some other brands are doing out there, some of the big brands. Let's start with those first. All right, so the first one up is going to be Duolingo. So they have this cute little owl that they use as their mascot, and they've come up with some really interesting content with it. And I'll show you a little example of that.
Ballerina cappuccina. Mi 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 mi. È la moglie di Cappuccino Assassino e ama la musica la 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 la, la sua passione.
If you want to understand the Italian brain rot memes that are
okay, so unfortunately our audio is missing there, so if you give me just a second, I will see if I can get this fixed.
Really dumb enough to think I'd tell you anything, you dumb dirty hoe. I wouldn't tell you what color socks I got on.
Bear with me for a second. There we go. All right, so let's hop back into it and let's talk about Duolingo. So Duolingo is doing this cute thing with their little owl mascot, and since they've been doing these videos, they have really grown their TikTok following. So over 10 million TikTok followers are now watching this content. Let's take a little look.
Ballerina cappuccina. Mi 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 mi. È la moglie di Cappuccino Assassino e ama la musica la 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 la, la sua passione.
I don't know what they said, but it was cute and I found it interesting, and it definitely made me go, man, I need to learn another language. All right, so another example is going to be Scrub Daddy, and this is different, y'all. I like this because it's showing another side of what you can do with social media as a brand. So when you think of brand national content, I'm just going to play it and let you see what you think.
Really dumb enough to think I'd tell you anything, you dumb dirty hoe. I wouldn't tell you what color socks I got on.
Okay, so you get what I mean now. That is not what you expect to see from a national brand and their content. So here we go. I wanted to show you a little bit more from Scrub Daddy, so I'm going to go back to them real quick.
Really dumb enough to think I'd tell you anything.
Okay, So take a quick look at the content that you see from Scrub Daddy. If you can see the imagery that goes along with this, okay, so this is definitely appealing to a younger demographic. And what's really great about that is that's what you should do. You should definitely customize your content to the platform that you're on. And when we're talking about TikTok, that is a younger audience, generally speaking. So if you want to create something that will catch a lot of attention, one, do something different. And two, make sure to do the right content for the right platform. Otherwise, you might reach a smaller base. If you're trying to reach as many people as possible, go as broad as possible. In this case, they went young and they really leaned into it, and it is working for them. Check that out. 4.3 million followers for a scrubbing pad. Okay. So why 4.3 million people are interested in content from a scrubbing pad, from a dish scrubbing pad? I mean, that shows that they are doing something right. And that is definitely some lessons you can take. So give them a follow, see what they're doing if you're trying to attract a younger audience on TikTok. Okay, let's look at a couple more examples. Ryanair, they're really embracing humor and the trends that are happening to produce their content. And they're doing very simple, non-flashy content. So here's an example.
When I say Ryan, you say air. Ryan. Ryan.
Shut up and sit down. Good boy.
Okay, so they use the AI voice that you hear
Tong 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 sahur. Non ha bisogno di spazio.
every TikTok video. They use that same voice. You hear it all over. And they used a video that, I mean, it was kind of silly. Yeah, of course. But like, let's go back and look at the numbers on that.
When I say Ryan, you say air. Ryan.
Okay, so take a look at the 790 comments on this video. Look at all the shares. Look at all the saves. 2,700 saves. 2,700 people saved this video. Why? I don't know. Probably because they want to use the sound or something. I don't know. But they now have that brand reinforced in their mind in some way. And 47,000 likes on that. That is huge. Okay, so yes, funny. Funny always works on social media, or generally speaking, if it's actually funny. That's kind of the caveat there. But what if you are a serious organization? So like when I was a journalist, we couldn't really make too many jokes on social media. Our bosses really didn't like it when we did that. And so there was that time there was a hurricane named Chris. We got in a little bit of trouble anyway. Yeah. So what do you do if you're a serious organization and you're trying to compete in the social media space? There's definitely a case for that. And the Washington Post is really the leader in this space when it comes to TikTok. So here's a quick look. Okay, so that was a news story of the day. TikTok shut down, TikTok brought back, and they came up with a clever way of telling that story that was quick. It reached the audience that they were trying to reach. It had some humor. It was still brand appropriate. It wasn't crude or rude or Scrub Daddy adjacent, but it definitely did what it needed to do. And if you look at the rest of their content, that one was a short one, but the rest of their content is a lot longer, and they actually tell a lot of the news of the day items through their videos, and they do just a great job at it. So if you have time, take a look at that. There's definitely some lessons to be learned from that if you want to do more serious content. Okay, now that's what the big boys are doing. And even though they're trying to make some content that looks homegrown or low budget, let's go ahead and say it's not low budget. They have budgets. All of those organizations have marketing budgets. They have marketing teams. They have people who are devoted to spending their time and days looking through social media platforms to see what's engaging, see what's trending. They have different platforms to follow things and notify them and all this stuff, right? Well, what if you don't have all that? What if you don't have the capacity to do all of that research or invest into a major team or anything like that? What do? Well, smaller brands can be very effective on social media as well in the same way. You just got to be a little smarter about it. So I wanted to show an example from one of our clients, which is Shoppers Value. And that is a franchise name, but they are locally owned. So that's one thing that they really wanted to point out to people, because a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that they're locally owned. When you look at them, they look like maybe a corporate, grocery store chain. And that kind of changes the way that you look at the store. So one of the things that they wanted to do was tell people that they are locally owned and get that message out there. So we came up with some different ways to do that. Here's an example of one that we did that really took off on TikTok. We recently learned about this community fridge located on Government Street at the Red Shoes, so we had to make a donation. We are a locally owned grocery store and we love to support our community. So earlier in the week, we went by to find out what exactly they need, and they said the biggest demand was for grab-and-go items.
This is amazing. Okay.
That was Rachel. She's the executive director of the Red Shoes. I put her on camera too much. Anyway, for those who don't know, the community fridge is a free refrigerator where people can bring items, drop them off, and then they can take as they need. Those PB&J sandwiches were made by volunteers who come by the Red Shoes to make sandwiches to put in the fridge. If you want to make or take a donation, head on over to the Red Shoes and make sure to spread the word. Okay, so that was a little bit longer than your typical short form piece of content. You don't have to have 10-second videos. You can tell longer stories on there. But the whole reason why we told that long of a story, by the way, you recognize that voice, I imagine. Anyway, the reason why we told that story is because we wanted to show their connection to the local community in a way that was unique, but also highlighted the fact that they donate a lot of stuff to various organizations in the community. So this was a way of highlighting that, because one thing that happened when we first started talking was they told me that all these different things, all these different organizations that they were involved with. And I said, oh, that's great. So why don't I see that on your social media feed? And they're like, oh, well, we just do that for the community. We don't need to brag about that. And it's like, no. It's not bragging. It's letting people know that you're part of this community and then highlighting that thing in the community so it too can get exposed to different audiences. So social media is really a sharing platform in that regard. Everything that you produce could potentially help another business, another small business that you know, or a product that you sell. You definitely want to look for those ways that you can kind of mutually benefit from each other. And in this case, it was a win-win. They had those items that needed to be donated. They don't like waste. They hate it when they waste things. So if they can donate that to the community fridge and then those items don't get wasted, that's a win. And looking for more of those opportunities is something that I think everyone should pay more attention to. Okay, so another example of a Baton Rouge-based business that is doing great things on social media is Flirty Girl, and it actually started in New Orleans. And then they have expanded since to Baton Rouge. But Flirty Girl, they have been very active in the social media space since day one, honestly. They have really been on top of whatever trend is happening, and they leaned into video content production as soon as they saw that that was something that they needed to do. And so here's an example of some of the video they produce.
Okay, so y'all went crazy when we shared this crawfish boil glitter, but your big question was, what does it look like on? Well, I'm gonna show ya.
So what I want y'all to know about this glitter application is it's not as quick as another kind because you really want to make sure you get these little pieces in there correctly. If you want 1 lemon, 2 lemons, or 3, I'm gonna go with 3 here. Here we go, guys. It takes a little bit more personal effort to get the pieces just like you like it, and don't forget you want to let it dry. That is key.
What do you think? So much fun.
Okay, so a couple things about this video, or a few things about this video. First of all, it's cute. It's really adorable, and it's well produced, and you definitely kind of identify, you bob your head along to the little music, and you get to see the product being showcased in real time by a real person. So you're like, oh, okay, well, that actually works. And that would be something maybe you're not sure of if you were looking at like a high level professional video. I don't know about you, but I'm always skeptical about whether or not things are actually work the way that they show them to work on, you know, professional commercials, right? So because they're trying to make it look good. So I don't know if that's actually how it works, but she did it in real time right there in the store, and it made you really feel like, yeah, okay, this works. This is a good product. And that's really what your social media is all about. Another thing, at the very end, she did a little call to action, and that's, she asked you, what do you think? Social media is a platform of communication, a give and take communication. When we're talking about legacy media, like where I came from at WAFB or any other news station, that's a one-way conversation. Kind of like me right now talking to you without talking to you. Anyway, when you're having that legacy conversation of just directly to camera, you're not asking people what they have to say about it because they don't have a way to say anything back. But social media, they do. They have a comment section, and boy, do they like to use the comment section. So you want to always look for those opportunities to engage, because engaging content, let's go back to that A word again, algorithm. The algorithm is going to reward content that gets comments, engagement of any kind. It's going to say like, hey, this is some content people want to see, so I'm going to go ahead and feed it out to more people. Because again, if it pushes content that is popular, right? If it's getting attention, if they see like, oh, people like this, then they're going to reward you by feeding it out to more people. And that is how things go viral. Okay. Now, we've talked about what to do. Let's talk a little bit about what you shouldn't do, because there are lots of mistakes that you should avoid. First of all, and I hate saying this because I'm the one that produces this type of video, but don't invest all of your marketing budget, all of your video budget into one super expensive, polished video. Yes, it's going to look great, but if you only have a $2,000 budget and you are going to spend all that money on one 2 to 3 minute video, what are you going to do with that video? Tell me that. All right, so you're going to post it on your YouTube account, maybe. You're going to maybe share that link on your LinkedIn account to that YouTube video. Maybe you're going to put that video still in its horizontal format onto your vertical platforms like Instagram or TikTok or something like that. It's not going to perform well, though. It's really not. And it's going to make you think that you wasted your money, or you're going to think that maybe the person who produced the video didn't do a very good job. Neither are true. It's just that you're not producing the right piece of content for the platform nor are you sharing that content in the right way. So yes, $2,000 on a video is actually a great deal, but is that the best use of your budget? You got to think about that. You got to have that plan. You got to have that game plan in place. Next, again, strategy. This is where strategy comes in. This is where having a plan comes in. You don't want to disappear for 3 weeks and then pop back up and be like, hey guys, everybody look at me, because you're not going to get that much attention. Social media is kind of like an energy funnel, right? And so the more energy you funnel into it, the more it's going to levitate and grow, right? And if you take away that energy by not posting anything new for a while, you're going to lose engagement. If you think about how many people somebody follows, right, and the amount of content that all of those people have to produce, then think about the fact that the algorithm is going to be sharing out random pieces of content to these people as well. The amount of content that's being fed through is just huge. So if you lose touch with your audience by going dormant, then your numbers, your engagement, all your things that go along with it are going to go dormant as well. So don't do that. Stay active, stay engaged, look for a way to remain on the platform. Look, you can do at least once a week. Seriously, you can do that. But again, you're going to need to plan, you're going to need to strategize, you're going to need to come up with a way to do this sustainably so that you're not just dying and saying, oh, I have to post another video today. If you plan well, then you'll have a lot less of that anxiety. Now, when you're planning, keep this one thing in mind. Don't make it all about you. Remember, I just said that this is a conversation. This is about talking to your audience, engaging with your audience, and building a relationship with your audience. So if it's like that friend of yours who always makes it about them, then you're probably going to lose interest in the conversation. Same thing is true for your social media audience. If you make it all about you, they're probably going to lose interest in you for a little while. So try to focus on things that bring value to your audience. Offer them something. Offer them information. Offer them something fun. Offer them a laugh. Offer them something other than just a product. Don't just sell them, okay? Because if you're just constantly selling them, they're going to feel like they have no value to you other than being a consumer. And I mean, I guess that's not a bad thing, but you don't get 4.3 million followers from feeling like you're being sold to, right? It's just not the way it goes. Think about when you watched regular TV. What did you do when the advertisements came on? You left the room, or you muted it, or you switched channels. You did anything you could to avoid watching that advertisement. So what do you think people are doing on social media when they smell an ad and they swipe and they see, oh, ad, next, 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 right? They're going to skip right by you. So try to think about it in terms of, don't be the friend that only talks about themselves. Offer something up to your community and get them engaged. Maybe even showcase your community. Highlight some of your customers in some way. Do something creative to really make them feel like they're part of the conversation. Okay, so now I've been telling you about the strategy you need to make and all this content you need to produce, and you're saying to yourself, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to produce this type of content. Well, that's where I come in and I can help you out, especially if you live in the Baton Rouge area. So we have a 3-day workshop. It's a hands-on workshop that allows you to learn everything you need to know about creating video content with your cell phone. I'm also going to provide you some tips on what gear that you can purchase that will help you really maximize that video. But really, it's about using the tools that you already have and starting there. And it's really about building that game plan for yourself, figuring out how you can create a sustainable piece of content that you can repeat over and over and over again to communicate with your audience. And I can show you how to do that. So in the workshop, day 1, we're going to talk about the fundamentals of photography and videography. We're going to explain to you all the different rules that go along with videography, so that way you can know the right way to produce video content. I'm also going to show you the different settings that are involved, so that way you can set your phone and optimize your phone so it will produce the best content for you. Then we're going to go into some ways to shoot the video, some strategies. So first of all, using your body as a tripod. Okay, what do I mean by that? Basically, how to get a steady video clip and move yourself and your body around with your phone in your hand in a way that's going to look really, really good, and it's going to look like it was done by a professional. Then we're going to talk about the different gear options, like I mentioned. So I'm going to show you different pieces of gear that you can purchase, either at low cost or I have some high-end stuff I'll let you play around with too. And even the high-end stuff, though, is really affordable. So let's go back to our $2,000 marketing budget example. So our $2,000 video. If instead of buying that one video, if that's the only money you have to invest in video this year, I say don't get that one video. Instead, come to the workshop. Let's figure out a game plan for you that is going to allow you to produce multiple pieces of content on your own. And let's figure out what gear you might need to make that possible, so it's going to look and sound the best that it can. And you might be saying, I'm not doing this. This isn't going to be me that does it. Well, then send someone from your team, and don't just send the youngest person on your team because you think that they already know how to do this stuff. They don't. Because, yeah, okay, 20-year-olds at this point come a little preloaded with some internet knowledge and phone knowledge, but they don't know how to do all the things that we're talking about. And would you really expect that they just know how to do everything? They're probably using their video in much different ways than what you would want to as a business. So show them the right way to do it. Invest in them, invest in your team, and send them to the workshop and let them learn the right ways to do things. So that's day 1. Day 2, we're going to go out in the field and we're going to shoot some video together. And we're going to spend a couple hours setting up different shots, looking for different opportunities, learning how to utilize natural light, utilizing artificial light, and doing things that we can do to manipulate the video that we want. You can learn neat tricks like how to utilize a green screen on your phone to make things appear and disappear. We can learn trick transition shots, so that way you know how to do all those fun little trending things that are going on out there. And you notice I'm saying you can. That's because this workshop is limited to 5 people. So it's all about what you want to learn in this workshop. And that's really what makes it different than those online courses that are being offered out there. An online course is great, and trust me, I'm going to have one at some point. But this physical in-person course is going to allow you to come in with the questions that you need answered and get specific answers to those questions, because there are a million different type of video pieces of content that you could produce. There are many different ways that you can produce those pieces of content. And if you just start from that and say, okay, I want to learn how to do video. Well, okay, what type of video do you want to learn how to do? Do you know the answer to that question? Because I'm willing to bet you don't. And all you need to do is take some time to figure out what that game plan is and figure out what the different strategy pieces you can put into play to make it all work together. So the last day, though, of the workshop is really the most important day. And I really want to make sure to highlight this. So the last day is the editing portion, and great video is wonderful to have, but if you do not know how to edit it, then it's worthless. So editing is the key to making your video worth anything. And without that knowledge, you're really just going to end up sitting there staring at some uncut content that you recorded. Maybe it's great, maybe it's awful. You'll never know because it's probably just going to sit on your phone unused. I am imagining that you are probably thinking, yep, I got tons of that stuff. I've recorded video and I thought, okay, what do I do with it now? Well, video editing is complicated. There are a lot of great tools out there now that make it pretty easy, but honestly, they're getting so sophisticated and there's so many different options out there. And I don't know about you, but if you have ever tried to order a dish off a Chinese menu, it can feel that way when you're trying to do some video editing. There are so many different things and you're like, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? All the filters, all the presets, all the transitions, all the stuff. And you've probably seen some videos out there that throw everything that they can possibly get into one video and it just gives you a little bit of a migraine to watch it. You don't want to be that. Well, over the 5 hours that we're going to spend on day 3 together, we're going to go over the basics of editing so you know exactly what to do to get that content produced. And we're going to work at your skill level. Again, this is why it is essential that to keep the workshop small, to keep the number of participants small, because this way I can work with each person one-on-one on their skill level with their comfort. We're going to learn 3 different platforms for video editing. We have CapCut, which is by far the clear leader right now in video editing. Everyone is using CapCut, so we're definitely going to focus on that. We're going to use Splice, which is an alternative editing platform, and it's got a little less bells and whistles. It's a little bit easier to use for somebody who's just starting out, and so it might just be the better option for some. And then the third one we're going to learn is DaVinci Resolve. So when you're ready to really level up and do something a little bit more sophisticated, that's going to be your option. And what's great about all of these is they all have free options in them. Now, I'm going to suggest some paid versions for some of these because you really get some value out of them. But you can do a lot of this stuff with free versions of these software. And if you know how to do it, it's going to be just as valuable as some of those paid versions. And sometimes you really don't need to get very sophisticated. You really can keep it simple. I'm also going to show you how to go ahead and just edit your video in different platforms like Instagram or TikTok. They have their own editing platforms. And in fact, CapCut, which again is the leading editing software, is owned by the same people who own TikTok. So those 2 platforms work very well together and are very complementary to each other. Keep that in mind. Okay, so all that said, the workshop is going to be an expense, of course, and we're talking about, we started this whole conversation off with fears of the recession, fears of the economy. So I'm going to come on screen to tell you that for attending today's webinar, I'm going to throw in a little bit of an offer. I'm going to send you an email with a recap of this video, a replay of this video, and I'm going to also include a discount code because who doesn't love a discount, right? So for attending this webinar, you'll get a 20% off discount code for the next workshop or any future workshop if you'd like to attend. And I really hope you do take the time to look at the workshop time availabilities, see if it will work in your schedule, or consider again sending one of your students, one of your employees. I don't know why I just got lost on what word to use there. But yeah, consider sending either someone from your staff or yourself and join me and let's learn how to do this thing together, because I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference. It's going to really help build your brand in a way that other pieces of marketing content just can't. So I hope you enjoyed today, and I will stick around and answer some questions. So if you have any of those questions, hit me up and let me know, and we'll have a talk about it. But thanks so much for attending, and I hope to have more of these webinars in the future. So please make sure to subscribe and follow and like and ding all the bells and do all the things and all the stuff and all the good things. All right. Thanks so much, y'all.